Concern can be the softest form of aggression. It doesn't sound like an accusation, it sounds like care. I'm worried about you, I just want to check in. Some people are concerned. The words are gentle, the effect is not. After the concern is voiced, your room gets smaller. People change how they look at you, conversations quiet when you enter, invitations thin out. You feel pressure to explain yourself without ever being told what you did. This is the concern trap. Concern used as a social handcuff. A handcuff does not need to hurt to restrain you. It only needs to limit your movement. Concern does this by changing the network around you while staying morally clean on the surface. It is a form of influence that pretends to be compassion. The cost is not in what they say to your face. The cost is in what they say to others. The first mark is vagueness with moral authority. The concern is never attached to a specific behavior that can be addressed. It is attached to an impression, a vibe, a pattern. The language stays foggy, so you can't resolve it. You can't fix what isn't named. Fog keeps you in a defensive posture, always trying to prove you are fine, stable, safe, normal. Proving becomes your unpaid job. Fog is the handcuff. The second mark is third-person framing. People are saying, a few of us noticed, some are worried. This creates a crowd without faces. A faceless crowd is powerful because you can't verify it and you can't respond to it directly. The crowd becomes a pressure source that cannot be confronted. It feels like weather. You don't argue with weather, you adapt. That adaptation is the point. A synthetic crowd tilts your behavior. The third mark is the borrowed caregiver role. The person delivering concern positions themselves as the reasonable protector of the group. They are not angry. They are responsible. They are checking. The more calm they are, the more unstable you appear if you push back. The trap is designed so that your defense becomes evidence against you. If you ask for specifics, you are defensive. If you refuse to engage, you are avoiding. If you stay calm, you are cold. If you show emotion, you are volatile. Concern is the perfect frame because it makes every response interpretable as pathology. That is not care, that is control. The fourth mark is network tilting. Concern is rarely delivered only once. It is distributed. Small messages, side conversations, private check-ins, quiet warnings. The content is often minimal. The effect is cumulative. The goal is not to convince one person. The goal is to shift the ambient temperature of the group. Once the temperature changes, people start self-censoring around you. They stop inviting you to certain spaces. They begin treating you as a risk. Risk labels isolate without evidence. The fifth mark is the demand for performative reassurance. You are expected to show that you are safe. You are expected to use the right tone, the right humility, the right level of openness. You are pushed toward a confession of feelings or a promise of self-improvement that you didn't choose. The trap wants you to accept the role of the person who needs monitoring. Once you accept that role, the monitoring becomes justified. Monitoring becomes normal. Now the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes concern is real. Sometimes someone is genuinely worried. The difference is whether concern seeks clarity or seeks leverage. Real concern asks direct questions, names direct observations, and respects direct answers. The concern trap avoids all of that. It prefers implication because implication cannot be resolved. Implication keeps the handcuff closed. This is why the trap is so effective on decent people. Decent people try to reassure. They try to soothe. They try to explain. They write long messages. They confess feelings. They overshare to prove innocence. Oversharing feels like honesty. In this context, it is payment. Every extra detail gives the network more material to interpret. Interpretation is how the trap reproduces. A Machiavellian read is blunt. Concern is a reputation move. It allows someone to lower your status while appearing benevolent. They get to look protective while you look unstable. Status shifts without confrontation. That is why it spreads. It is safe to repeat. People can participate without feeling cruel. A stoic read is cleaner. You can't control other people's narratives. You can control whether you become a dancer for their narratives. If you start performing mental health for approval, you lose yourself. The trap wants you performing. Performance is exhausting, and exhaustion makes you easier to steer. A shadow read is the hardest. The trap feeds on a hidden vanity, the need to be seen as okay, the need to be seen as stable and good. When that need is strong, a vague concern comment can hook you for weeks. You rehearse defenses in your head. You craft the perfect explanation. You scan the room. You seek signs. You become a mind that revolves around other minds. That is the handcuff tightening. Concern traps also often pair with protective advice. Maybe you should step back. Maybe you should take a break. Maybe you should focus on yourself. Those phrases can be healthy. In the trap, they function as quiet exhale. They encourage you to remove yourself so the network can stabilize without you. If you comply, the story becomes true. You were a risk, so you left. If you don't comply, you are a risk because you stayed. Either way, you are framed as the problem. This is the false choice. The trap is not solved by arguing about your innocence. Innocence is the wrong target. The target is structure. So what does defense look like? First, refuse fog politely and consistently. If someone says they're concerned, you ask for specific observations, not motives, not impressions, observations. What did you see or hear that concerned you? If they cannot answer, you have information. You do not argue. You simply treat the concern as unsupported. Second, separate support from surveillance. Real support offers a concrete option. If you want to talk, I'm here. Surveillance demands compliance. You need to do X. You should stop Y. You have to reassure everyone. When you hear compliance demands, you label them internally as monitoring. Monitoring is not care. Monitoring is governance. One directive line matters here: never confess to fog. Confession is fuel because it creates story material. Fog confessions never end because the accusation was never specific. If you confess to fog, you will keep paying. Third, control the channel. The concern trap loves side conversations. It loves whispers. It loves private distribution. You counter by moving it into direct contact. If there's an issue, talk to me directly. You do not make a speech. You simply do not engage with second-hand narratives. Second-hand narratives are how your reputation is moved without your consent. Fourth, build a stable witness set. Do not chase the whole crowd. Choose one or two grounded people and speak with them plainly, not to win sympathy, but to stay anchored in reality. When the network becomes noisy, grounded witnesses protect your mind from being rewritten. Fifth, define your boundary on monitoring. I'm open to specific feedback. I'm not open to being discussed as a risk. This is not an attack. It is a jurisdiction line. Jurisdiction is the hidden battlefield in concern traps. Who gets to define you? Who gets to manage you? Who gets to narrate you? If you draw the jurisdiction line early, the trap loses room. Now, what if the trap is already in motion? Do not rush to purge the rumor. Purging usually makes it worse because it looks like panic. The trap wants you panicked. Panic is the visual of instability. Instead, slow down. Keep your actions clean. Keep your communication brief. Keep your tone steady. Ask for specifics when confronted. Decline to address vague claims. When you are asked to reassure, offer only what is concrete. If you have a specific concern, name it. If you don't, I'm not responding to implications. This feels harsh only if you are used to paying with emotional labor. It is not harsh. It is boundaries. Concern traps also attempt group therapy. They invite you into a circle to process the concern. The circle is a stage. Stages want performances. If you enter, you will be pressured to confess feelings for the audience. The audience will interpret. Interpretation will spread. You cannot control it, so you decline the stage. Second directive line used once: do not litigate your sanity in a crowd. If a real issue exists, it can be handled through direct conversations and clear requests. Crowds do not repair, crowds judge. There is a final tactic that is quiet and powerful. Replace the moral frame with the operational frame. What is the concrete problem we are solving? What is the request? What would resolution look like? Operational questions drain moral theater. The trap needs moral theater. Without it, it has no oxygen. If the trap persists, you may need to exit the jurisdiction entirely. That does not have to be dramatic. You simply reduce your dependence on that network. You stop bringing your needs there. You stop seeking approval there. You stop explaining there. You build steadier rooms where concern means care, not restraint. When you step into steadier rooms, the old whispers lose their hold. The verdict is simple. Concern that refuses specificity is not concern. It is a status move, and the defense is equally simple. Demand reality, refuse fog, keep your mind out of other people's hands. That is how handcuffs made of kindness fall apart. The concern trap has a signature timeline. Phase 1 is the whisper. It is delivered privately or in a soft corner of the group. The goal is to plant a seed that cannot be disproved because it is made of feelings. The seed is framed as responsibility. I'm saying this because I care. Caring language is a shield that discourages scrutiny. If you question the shield, you look cold. Phase 2 is the spread, not a dramatic rumor, just a slow diffusion. The whisperer mentions it to 1 or 2 people so they can support you. Those people mention it to 1 or 2 more. Each retelling becomes more confident because people mistake repetition for evidence. Soon, you are dealing with an atmosphere, not a statement. Atmospheres can't be corrected. You can only endure them or leave. Phase 3 is the invitation to demonstrate wellness. This is where you are pushed into performance. You are asked to check in, reflect, be accountable, take space, prove you're okay. The words vary. The function is constant. The group wants to reduce uncertainty by turning you into an object they can label. Labels feel like safety to anxious groups. The trap uses that anxiety. Phase 4 is the quiet punishment. Invitations stop. Access narrows. You are excluded for your own good or to protect the vibe. The punishment is disguised as care so no one has to feel cruel. This is the social version of a clean lie. It keeps the group's conscience intact. Phase 5 is the rewrite. After enough time, people forget the original fog and remember only the conclusion. There was a reason. It was a lot. They needed help. The reason is never named. The reason becomes a myth. Myths are sticky. Myths attached to your name. This is why fog is not a minor detail. Fog is the technology. There is also a common trigger that initiates the trap. You violate an unspoken expectation. You say no. You don't mirror the dominant emotion. You don't join a pylon. You don't disclose as much as others. You don't show the right enthusiasm. You don't play the role the group assigned you. None of this is bad, but it creates discomfort in the group because it reveals that consent exists. Consent makes anxious systems feel unsafe, so the system reaches for concern because concern is the acceptable way to discipline. Discipline that calls itself care is still discipline. The concern trap often uses a particular phrase set that sounds gentle but contains a verdict. I'm not judging. I'm not trying to label you. I just want to make sure you're okay. The phrase is meant to preempt your objection. If you object, you look like you're accusing them of judging. The trap gives itself immunity. Immunity is power. It also builds a double bind around transparency. If you share nothing, you look secretive. If you share a lot, you give them material. If you share emotion, you look unstable. If you share calmness, you look cold. The escape is not to pick the right performance. The escape is to refuse the performance requirement. Refusing performance does not mean stonewalling. It means insisting on the adult structure that care requires: specificity, directness, and an end condition. End conditions are what traps avoid. A healthy concern conversation ends with a clear request and a clear resolution. Please don't do X. Please do Y. Are you safe? Do you need help with Z? The trap has no end condition because the end condition would expose the lack of evidence. So it keeps looping. You remain a concern. Your identity becomes the unresolved ticket in the group system. Being a ticket is degrading. Tickets are processed. People are known. This is why one of the cleanest defenses is to refuse the ticket role. You are not a ticket. You are a person. When someone tries to turn you into a ticket, you ask for the concrete behavior and the concrete request. If they cannot produce it, you leave the ticket on their desk. Another defense is to control your own narrative without performing. You can issue one calm sentence that establishes reality, then stop. If anyone has a specific concern, I'm open to a direct conversation. I'm not responding to vague claims. That line is not defensive. It is a policy. Policies stop traps because traps need emotional improvisation. The concern trap also loves time distortion. It will bring up old moments, edited moments, half-remembered moments, and present them as a current risk. This is not because history is irrelevant. It is because history is malleable. Malleable history can be used to justify present restraint. When you sense time distortion, you return to the current behavior. What is happening now that needs addressing? If they cannot name now, they are not protecting anyone. They are protecting a story. Stories protect power. There is a difference between support and supervision. Support asks what you want. Supervision tells you what you need. Concern traps slip into supervision quickly. They recommend what you should do with your life. They prescribe how you should feel. They suggest who you should talk to. They offer resources as if you are a case. Resources can be helpful. In the trap, resources are a downgrade. They mark you as the unstable one and the deliverer as the stable one. This is why you must watch who gets to be stable. Stability is status in these systems. If the concerned deliverer is always stable, always calm, always reasonable, and you are always framed as the problem, you are not in care. You are in a status move wearing compassion. A final sign is the refusal of private repair. Real concern prefers privacy because privacy reduces spectacle and reduces distortion. The trap prefers semi-public processing because semi-public processing creates witnesses and creates an impression. Impressions are the real currency. If someone insists on processing with others present, ask yourself why. Often the why is simple. They want the crowd to see you as the concern. That perception is the handcuff, and handcuffs are easier to lock than to unlock. So you don't let them close in the first place. There is also a countermeasure that protects you from becoming obsessive. Use a reality ledger, not a diary of hurt, but a record of facts. Date, what was said, what was asked, what was refused, who was present. Fact records prevent gaslighting by atmosphere. When someone claims, "We've been worried for a while," you can check what actually occurred. When your mind starts spinning, you can return to the record and see what is real. Reality ledgers calm the nervous system because they replace guessing with data. Data also reveals pattern. If the same person is the source of repeated concern, that is not a community. That is a campaign. If the same concern appears whenever you set boundaries, that is not care. That is discipline. If the concern disappears when you comply, that is not safety. That is obedience being rewarded. Reward patterns tell the truth. There is a clean and mature way to respond when you suspect a campaign. You do not retaliate. You do not expose. You do not recruit counter-rumors. You reduce your dependence on the network and you raise your standards for contact. You keep your conversations practical. You keep your disclosures low. You stop giving material that can be interpreted. You stop asking the network to confirm your worth. This is not withdrawal as punishment. It is withdrawal as sovereignty. Sovereignty has a strange effect. When you stop chasing the crowd, you stop giving the crowd power to define you. Some people will respect that. Some will resent it. Resentment is information. A concern trap thrives on your need to be cleared. It wants you to plead for your name back, but names are not given by crowds. Names are kept by you. You keep your name by acting in ways you can defend privately and by refusing to audition for public approval. If you must speak, speak once. Keep it short. Avoid emotion theater. State the policy, then let time do the sorting. Sorting will feel slow, but it is cleaner than fighting. Fighting binds you to the story, and the story is the handcuff. A concern trap often overlaps with a protector archetype. One person becomes the translator of the group's anxiety. They present themselves as the bridge. They say they are trying to prevent conflict. They say they are trying to keep things safe. They appear reasonable. Then they begin deciding what is safe for everyone, which becomes deciding who is allowed full personhood. Full personhood is messy. It includes disagreement, boundaries, and private thoughts. The trap calls those things unsafe. You can spot a protector trap by watching whether safety is defined as comfort. Comfort is not safety. Comfort is the absence of tension. Some tension is normal when adults are honest. When a group treats all tension as danger, it will punish anyone who introduces reality. Concern becomes the punishment method because it is socially acceptable. This is why your calm questions matter. Operational questions force the group to define safety in concrete terms. Concrete terms create accountability. The trap avoids accountability. It prefers feelings because feelings can be weaponized without proof. If the group cannot produce concrete terms, you cannot repair the situation through conversation. You can only repair it by changing your environment. Environments teach the nervous system what is normal. In a concern trap environment, your nervous system will keep scanning for approval. In a stable environment, your nervous system will stop scanning. That shift is the real healing. It is also worth naming a mistake that decent people make. They try to overclarify. They offer their internal history to prove they are not a risk. They disclose stress, trauma, regret, private struggles, hoping honesty will calm the crowd. In a healthy room, that honesty is met with respect. In a concern trap, it becomes evidence. It becomes more fog. It becomes more material for interpretation. You cannot feed a hungry story and expect it to starve, so you stop feeding it. You keep your interior private and your behavior public. You let your consistency speak. You let your boundaries stand. You accept that not everyone will approve, and you refuse to make approval your oxygen. That is the verdict exit, not rage, not collapse, just a refusal to be reduced to a rumor-wearing compassion. Concern that seeks truth becomes conversation. Concern that seeks leverage becomes a handcuff. Do not wear it. There is a simple psychological reason the concern trap spreads so well. It offers moral cover for cowardice. Many people dislike direct conflict. They avoid saying, "I don't like what you did." They avoid asking hard questions. Concern gives them a way to act without exposure. They can participate in restraint without admitting they are restraining. They can exclude without calling it exclusion. They can punish without naming punishment. This is not only about villains, it is about incentives. Incentives matter because the concern trap is contagious. When one person uses concern as a status move, Others learn that it is safe and effective. They imitate it. Soon, a culture forms where talking about people is easier than talking to people. That culture will eventually consume everyone because fog never stops at one target. It needs motion to survive. Motion is provided by new concerns. If you want a clean internal compass inside such cultures, use one question. Did anyone speak to the person directly before spreading the concern? If no, the concern is likely governance, not care. Direct contact is what real concern requires. Without it, the concern is a performance for an audience. Another compass is proportionality. Real concern is proportional to evidence. Trap concern is proportional to discomfort. If you simply make people uncomfortable by being different, calm, boundaried, or independent, trap concern inflates. Inflation is how the handcuff tightens. The group begins treating difference as danger. Difference is not danger. Difference is information. A personal defense that matters here is to stop using your own anxiety as a lie detector. In a concern trap, you will feel anxious. Anxiety will tempt you to think you must have done something wrong. That is the trap, exploiting your conscience. Conscience is good. Conscience is also a lever if it is hooked to fog. So you pair conscience with evidence. You ask yourself what you can name and what you can correct. If there is something to correct, correct it in clear terms. If there is nothing to name, you do not invent crimes to satisfy the crowd. Invented crimes are how decent people get captured. There is also a social skill that prevents escalation. Do not escalate tone to match their implication. Tone escalation gives them the volatile picture they want. You can be firm without heat. Firmness without heat is disorienting to moral theater because theater needs heat to read as truth. If you must withdraw from a network, withdraw cleanly. Don't vanish with a melodramatic exit. Don't announce a crusade. Reduce exposure and increase contact with stable people elsewhere. Let your life expand in other rooms. Expansion is the antidote to handcuffs because handcuffs work only when the trapped room is your only room. When you have more rooms, whispers lose gravity. Gravity is the right word here. The trap creates reputation gravity. It makes you feel heavy, watched, liable. Gravity keeps you from moving. It keeps you from trying new spaces. It keeps you orbiting the same crowd, trying to fix the same fog. The cure is motion in a different direction. You do not owe everyone closure. You owe yourself sanity. Sanity is not a public verdict handed down by a group. Sanity is the ability to think clearly, choose calmly, and live without constant self-defense. That is the real verdict. If a room makes you constantly defend your mind, the room is not safe. Leave the handcuffs on the table. A room that values truth will ask you directly and let your answer matter. A room that values comfort will whisper, monitor, and call it care. Choose truth rooms. That is the verdict.